Hello and welcome everyone. We would like to invite you to tune in every Friday at noon for our empowering 15-minute live sessions, where we bust the myth that you don't have control over your type 2 diabetes.
We're going to say it as it is. Type 2 diabetes is completely preventable by making comprehensive lifestyle changes without drugs or surgery. Yes, we said it. And every Friday, we're going to keep saying it. And plus, we'll give you the evidence, the practical steps that you need to take control of your type 2 diabetes.
We might have met before. I'm Dr. Lynne, emergency medicine physician from Sheffield, and I'm here with three amazing NHS workers who are going to bust the myth. We're here with Dr. Erica, GP from the West Midlands, Lynne, lifestyle medicine nurse and from Glasgow, and Petya, lead diabetes dietitian from Coventry.
Today, we will be discussing the extraordinary human and financial costs of type 2 diabetes in the UK population.
As you just mentioned, Lynne, the costs both on human as well as on our national financial economy are huge. Can you zoom in and let us know a little bit more? What are these costs that we are facing?
Well, the human cost is quite startling. If you're diagnosed with diabetes as an adult, your 10 years shorter lifespan is on average is likely. Whereas if you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in childhood, it's 20 years shorter. On average, your lifespan is expected to be. So can you imagine living 10 years less with this diagnosis?
10 years less with a diagnosis which we know, and we have scientific evidence to show that it's preventable, and in most cases it is even reversible. That is just a catastrophe. Can I ask you, Petya, we mentioned the cost, but what is it in percentage of England that is going to be affected by this disease?
So in terms of how many people will be affected, it's estimated that right now 1 in every 3 babies that are born today will become diabetic, which is just a scary number to think that 1 in every 3 people. That'll be a huge cost to society in the future as well.
And Erica, in your GP practice, you see patients with this disease every single day. Could we highlight actually not only the financial costs, but also on the stresses that it's putting on us as an NHS workers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I see people with type 2 diabetes on a daily basis. And we were just talking before we came on live that the number that I really just cannot wrap my head around is that the NHS spends over 1.5 million an hour on diabetes. I mean, can you even imagine? And the majority of this money is spent on the complications stemming from diabetes. So diabetes sounds common enough. A lot of people maybe not too scared about the diagnosis of diabetes because it's so common. But what people may not realize is that diabetes is related to, it actually affects every single cell in your whole body, affects every single organ. And so you get complications from heart attacks, strokes, to kidney disease, ending up on dialysis, to eye problems. It's one of the leading causes of blindness. And you can get nerve problems and blood vessels problem in the rest of your body. And I, as a junior doctor, when I was earlier in my career, I worked on a vascular ward. And the majority of people I saw on the ward had diabetes, and they were coming in with complications from diabetes, ending up needing an amputation. So these are just some of the complications from diabetes that we see on a daily basis.
That's heartbreaking to know that, again, it is a preventable and reversible disease. And that's taking such a huge personal and national toll and financial toll on the nation. Can we look a little bit closer at the details of how much do these drugs cost us yearly, Lynne? And we are talking about drugs that, yes, they do support or address the symptoms today for our patients, but as we're starting to understand, they actually do not reverse the root cause of the disease. So how much do these drugs actually cost, Lynne?
So throughout 1 year of a diabetic's life, it's 540 million the NHS is spending on these drugs. And actually, most often the condition worsens, as we've said, it progresses, and patients are needing more and more medication. So the cost of that is only going to increase. And at the end of taking these tablets, you're still left with the potential for complications, high glucose levels, and that amount of money is it's mind-boggling to still have a condition at the end of it, that's progressing for you. 540 million in the year.
And as you mentioned, these drugs are actually not shown to address the root cause. And we can see that because in 2008, we only spent much less, only 168 million. But 10 years later, now we're spending 540 million. And that shows that what we are doing is not working. We are not addressing the root causes.
This is why that Lynne was saying, despite the medications, the disease tend to progress and people still get complications from diabetes. It's because we're not addressing the root cause. So we're just treating the symptoms of the high blood sugar, but the disease itself, the insulin resistance, we're not really addressing with medications.
Absolutely. The medication is so important at the moment to help try and control, but if you're not changing your root cause with lifestyle, then you're going to have to keep taking these drugs and even potentially more. So it's really important that we start to address the lifestyle that we can change in order to try and come off of the medication if possible, but certainly have better control over your blood glucose.
Mm-hmm. And Petya, we have looked at these huge costs directly to the patient, but can we look at the cost to the economy from absenteeism, early retirement, and social benefits? What are those numbers?
Yeah, so those are staggering numbers as well. So from absenteeism, it's estimated that it's 8.4 billion a year. Which is an enormous blow to the economy, and that money could be better used to help other causes that are underfunded. Early retirement, again, because of the complications, people are not able to continue to work as longer, and that's estimated to cost 6.9 billion, so almost £7 billion every single year. And then there are social benefits. Obviously, people will need that support if they've suffered with the complications, and that's estimated to be another 152 million, which might pale in comparison to the other two figures. But if we think about it, 150 million pounds, we could do so much more with that money if we were able to take control of this disease.
And this is just one of the many chronic diseases, but one that actually perpetuates other chronic diseases, as Dr. Erica mentioned. And Petya, you have had a patient success story just not long ago where you were able to actually stop the progression of one of your diabetic patients. Can you please tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so of course, the hard work was all done by my patients, and I don't want to, all credit goes to them. But I'm really happy to have been a part of their journey to help them address all the different pillars of lifestyle. So they were able to improve their diet and have more whole, unprocessed plant foods that are high in fiber and phytonutrients. They were able to address their sleep, so they got better quality sleep. They were able to reduce the stress in their lives. So it was a long process, but in the end, all of those changes added up. They were able to lose weight. they were able to get off their diabetes medication. And their latest blood results showed that their blood sugars on average were not in the diabetic range. So they put their diabetes in remission through lifestyle changes, through their actions, which was very, very powerful to be a part of and to see. I'm very pleased for them.
Incredible. You did say that it took a long time, but actually in the scale of how long it takes to be sick through a lifetime only on medications without lifestyle changes, what are we talking about? When did you start actually treating this patient with lifestyle changes?
So we started working together in November last year. And because of the COVID pandemic, it was all over the phone. So they weren't getting intensive support. So it took from November until this month we got their latest results. So that's about 10 months, I think. And that's, I think, a reflection as well of how many patients there are and how much support we're able to provide in the NHS. So it can be done quicker than 10 months, but we've shown it's possible in 10 months.
Even just over the phone, you were able to achieve this incredible result, and that now stopped for this patient the progression of developing heart disease associated with type 2 diabetes, kidney diseases, all these costs that we were talking about to the patient's health and to our economy. You have been able to stop it. And that's where the question comes. Do people actually consider that type 2 diabetes is preventable and it's reversible? And I think everybody has to ask that, both physicians and patients, and change the way we talk about diabetes. It's time, and I hope that through these Friday events, we will be able to do that. Lynne, you have had a consideration with regards to diet and cost. So you had a patient that unfortunately is on universal credit, and you weren't sure how to help this patient because they didn't have enough money to actually buy healthful foods that are whole foods, vegetable and fruits, legumes and seeds. And so what was your concern and what were your findings?
My concern is something that's very close to, I think, all of our hearts, is that this gentleman's sugar levels, blood glucose is getting worse every time we check it. And the reason for that is he is shopping in food banks predominantly, and the very low cost kind of frozen food shops as well. And he is just trying to get by day to day with his life and having to live with this chronic condition. And it's really concerning because when he described to me what he was able to afford to buy, I mean, there's no other phrase for it than it's beige. It is a plate of beige foods that he's managing. And to think that people who are struggling financially don't have that option of colour, fruit, vegetables, fresh foods is just something I can't believe that as a society we're allowing to happen. And obviously we are trying very hard to work with the gentleman to add more colour to his life, but it is a big barrier to overcome for these patients and for society as a whole.
Absolutely. And this brings us to the point where we are really passionate here in Afternoon Tea as a group, is health inequality across the nation, and more with the pandemic, with the COVID pandemic, we have highlighted that there's a huge difference between what we can afford. And we have to think about this for a minute, because if we have this staggering cost that we have just discussed today, we either decide to address the root cause of this problem and help our society to eat healthily across the nation. So either we invest into that, or we will have to invest into chronic diseases through our health tax budget. So either way, we will have to pay for people to eat healthily, or we will have to pay for the medications to stop chronic disease progression. So the question is, what are we going to do about this problem? We are actually going to work together with Roger, a very passionate person down in the Southwest in Taunton area, where we are going to take on the challenge for 4 weeks. We are going to eat on universal credit and to show you what we are able to achieve to buy and if we can eat healthily or not. So we are trying to bust some myths. Is it possible or not? Or find out actually how they are living on such a low budget of £3 a day. So thank you so much for today's session. I would love to highlight that in January, we are going to roll out a fully funded type 2 diabetes reversal course where we will be addressing prevention, treatment, and possible reversal for our patients down in Somerset and Taunton area. And this will be completely free of charge to the end user, and this will be funded by the amazing Phil from Dandelion Seeds Foundation. And we are looking forward to delivering this incredible course with very passionate people who are looking at not only addressing chronic disease, but also offering it to patients who cannot afford private courses or expensive medications on the side. So we are looking forward to telling you more about that. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we are looking forward to seeing you next Friday at noon to bust some type 2 diabetes myths. See you guys later. Have a good weekend. Bye.
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 Okay, I just